Hello and welcome to this edition of EMS Now Up Close. I'm Eric Miskell with EMS Now, and today my pleasure to speak with Scott Ryan. Scott Ryan's a senior consultant with Cetec ERP. I had the pleasure of speaking with Scott's colleague Tanner earlier this year, kind of before the whole IPC Apex show. We are now past IPC Apex, so it's a good time to kind of get caught up and get some more updates from Cetec. So Scott, welcome. Thanks for taking time today.
Yeah, thank you, Eric, for having me. I'm live from the CTech office demo room, so it's good to be
Ooh,
here.
very nice.
Yeah,
And in full transparency to everybody, I actually did interview Scott at Apex, but I messed up on the audio, so we are redoing this, but that's okay. I always prefer these interviews anyway because they're more relaxed and you don't have all the stuff going on around you like you do on trade show floors. So I always appreciate this platform.
yeah.
So thanks for doing this again. So
Oh, yeah, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, this is great.
yeah, good. Listen, let's start. I mean, CTech ERP, I've been impressed with. I mean, because the way you guys position yourself. So speak to that though. What is the value in that kind of all-in-one, out-of-the-box ERP versus the other options for ERP available in the market?
Yeah, exactly. So as you kind of move down market from tier one, tier two, teams are smaller, they're more lean, and they need more tools to keep up with larger competitors, right? So
Mhm.
you end up with a smaller team responsible for more of the really value add portions of the business, and they often are crossing over across multiple departments even. So having a singular all-in-one tool like CTech that is your ERP, your financials, but also is your MRP and your material planning and purchasing and lean and efficient inventory management that also ties into your MES. And so you're not disconnecting your CRM from your quality, from your ERP, and then having to figure out how do you connect different systems that handle and store data differently. And even for the really small companies, you're not on a bunch of different siloed spreadsheets that have to be manually updated. And then you have to figure out how to process everything in QuickBooks, right? So that kind of brings all of those things together in a very broad system, tailored and designed specifically for manufacturing. So there's just a depth of configurability that allows manufacturers to build it their way. Even within EMS, there's some standardization, but there's not a ton of standardization in process, right? Because they're all contract manufacturers, and so they build their business around the customer's needs, and so that varies very widely. So even within the EMS and PCB assembly, there's a wide range of how people approach the same problem, and so you need that configurability. And then, kind of lastly, is that ties into the costing and how we implement, how we support is because it's not a custom code base, everybody runs on the same version of code. That means that it's lower cost on support. It's easier and faster for us to handle a support issue. We're not having to handle what's the custom code on this on your box or on your server, right? And implementation is a little bit more streamlined. We have best practices around how to handle those kind of fixed points that are just that's the right way to do something in any manufacturing company, along with the choose your own path in between point A and point B kind of thing. So
Right. Okay, you said a lot there. Let's unpack some of it.
yeah.
First of all, and as I heard you talk, you're talking about it being configured. So can it actually be configured for maybe specific niches within the manufacturing, whether it be by, industry sector served or even type of service offered?
Yeah, so there are standard kind of fixed screens, right? You have a sales order screen or you have a work order screen. But then when you go to issue a kit or you go to allocate parts to a job, there are specific that functions differently in different worlds. Specifically in EMS, it's like when you issue a reel, you move a whole reel to the SMT line, but you only want to pick the 5,000 needed for that job. And so we have features that you can turn on or turn off within that work order process that allow you to move the reel to a bin named for the job number,
Okay.
but only pick or allocate what's needed so that you don't inflate your WIP numbers, right? So that's an example of okay, there are fixed screens, but within the functionality, you change how, for a process manufacturer, there are some pieces that look very different
Hmm.
than somebody that's discrete.
Okay. And also, as you're talking, you were talking about the interaction between all the various, parts and all the data sources that you're working with there. So what are some of the things to consider when you're integrating the processes back to an ERP or an MES?
Yeah. So we when we implement or when we're talking to potential customers and even active customers, there's so much innovation happening around inventory management systems, and so even though you might have kind of an all-in-one, fully integrated ERP QMS, you still want data to talk to your machines.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of times, a lot of the traceability is stored there as well. So things that we tend to run into is how easy is it to get data off that machine. Some of them actually have open APIs. I know that there's some standards through IPC that kind of standardize the data formats. In our experience, it's really been how hard is it to access that data?
Mhm.
They'll say, yeah, we have an open API, but that may or may not be fully true, or it may only be true for their newest product line, right? So then you have to think about, well, can I get a file? Can I get that machine, or like that tower, that X-ray counter? Can I get that X-ray counter to load a file onto the server that I can go fetch it with a script and update my inventory data to that unique ID, to that lock code automatically? And so it really is thinking about what are the high impact touch points. The more that you integrate, the higher cost that project becomes, right? And then there's a lot of complexity that can happen. So you think about what's the highest value touch point, what problem am I trying to solve, and then how can I get my data as real time as possible back into the ERP.
Yeah. And so that's an interesting point. So if it's older equipment set that's being worked with and doesn't have all the latest whiz bang features on it,
Mhm.
what then you have to create a workaround and find something or export it out and re-import it in.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, and often they can load. You can get the machine to load a file onto the server, and so then you have to write a script that can go fetch that file every minute or every 2 minutes, or sometimes there's a trigger to go grab that. So it maybe isn't as real time as like this action is taken, this trigger event happens, and then there's an API call, updating the data back to the ERP. But yeah, and we do that kind of all the time. It really is just how easy or how accessible can you get the data, and in what format. And I know, yeah, again, IPC has some standards that I think will help that moving forward, but there is a new machine is expensive, right? So
Yeah.
sometimes you're stuck with what you have.
Yeah, well, and especially, you guys I know also specialize in kind of the smaller, medium-sized kind of EMS, those types of shops. And for them, you're right, and having worked in one, we had older equipment sets, right? And
Mhm.
we know how to fix it ourselves, right? If it broke
Yeah,
down. So
yeah.
it's the same, yeah, that's kind of the world you play in, though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, your quality manager is your IT director, also, right? So, yeah,
Yeah,
it is, and so like our people, we have to be pragmatic about
yeah,
what we do and how we do it. Like things have to really add value to be worth the
yeah.
investment.
Yeah. And so after somebody makes that decision, invests and, decides to go with Cetec ERP, tell me about that implementation and your approach to that. I mean, because that crucial first phase is once you make the decision is bringing it in, they want to get it operational ASAP, right?
Yeah. I used the word pragmatic. I think that's our approach. The way we think about it internally is ease. How easy can we make it for a company to select and then implement CTEC? So, in terms of what it takes to implement, the two hardest parts of a project are data and training. Especially because the way we deliver CTEC is a web native, it's super lightweight. So we don't have to install something on your server. We don't like, there's not a whole lot of setup behind the system. You can just start a free trial, put a credit card in, and go. We don't require upfront licensing fees. So it's very lightweight to actually spin up an instance of CTEC and then start getting your data in. So we have customers that will actually self-implement. we'll give them a self-implementation guide. We give that gives them tools to in-app data import tools through the UI that they can import customers, vendors, BOMs, parts through with an Excel file. And then they'll self-train and implement all on their own with no cost, right? So then you get to kind of larger, more complex companies that they want some help training. They want us to import data through the back end. It's really the same concept. We give you Excel files that are standardized and we push them through scripts. We have a little bit more flexibility to scrub data or respond to specific projects in that manner. So we try to streamline the data. The hardest part is really getting data out of your system and formatted to those Excel templates, right? And often it's, well, the garbage in, garbage out, right? Right. People want to scrub that data before they put it into a new system. They want to start clean and fresh. The second piece is training. So we think about training in kind of two levels. There's the basic foundational, how do you use the system? We were talking before this, Cetec, we're big fans of a good pun. So we have a training platform that we call University ERP that is an app. You sign a user up and it gives them access to 10 different classes that are kind of the core departments of a manufacturing company: sales, purchasing, inventory, production, so on and so forth. So a user can take a class. We give them the how-to videos. We guide them through a challenge or through a test, so they're tested on the material. That kind of gives them this is how you'll function in Cetec. This is the best practices in Cetec, so you understand how things connect and how, when you enter a work order, this is how Cetec drives demand for MRP, right? And this is how inventory gets consumed. But then we talk to the configurability of Cetec, even amongst the EMS companies, is you have this kind of next level of process mapping. So how do we do things our way? How do we build this our way? So then often you partner with a Cetec consultant, where we'll come on site or we'll do remote Zoom calls and sit alongside your team and help you, take your processes and then map those into Cetec. And usually we're kind of meeting in the middle, right? Some compromise of, we kind of adapt the software a little bit and you kind of adapt your processes a little bit, and then we meet in the middle. So data and training are really the two most difficult pieces. And then what we're building up towards is what we call a cutover and a go live. We try to approach it from a big bang approach, right? Where you turn off the legacy system and then on a Monday morning you turn on Cetec. All your data is there, it's staged, it's ready to go. Part of the reason for that is often companies want to run in parallel, but what happens when you do that is people are doing their job twice. They don't know which place to enter data. And then you never really get people over to the new system. So then you're kind of stuck in this limbo for, months or even, in some cases years. So we try to scope that first phase very small, to very small phase one scope, so that your business critical operations on Cetec, but without, extending out the pain, right?
Yeah. It's fun. You've alluded to it a few times in your saying, but I know you guys have that new tagline, the build your way, right? And and I'm thinking, especially for EMS, your way isn't one way because they have multiple customers, all with different needs and different things going on. So it's really, your way is still not singular, it's multiple, even within a smaller mid-size EMS, right?
Exact. Well, handling consignment or customer supplied inventory, right? Even the same customer might have different or multiple contracts or different, you've got different inventories for the same customer for different programs. And so, even within a specific customer, you have varied ways of how to handle
and so
what they need.
From your end, then the system has to be flexible enough to account for all that and allow it to be, maybe some customers are very advanced, some are very simplistic, but all that has to be configurable within the platform.
Yes. And so there are fixed points at point A and point B that the system requires for everybody. And then there are different configuration settings you can turn on, different data tables, set up your own work locations, your own machines, capacity, and then you can train people so you handle things by process a lot, or you have certain fields that you turn on per customer, or you add your own custom fields to a record so that you can
Oh,
print that to a packing slip, right? We do like customer specific packing slips. So there's a lot of, yeah, very, very specific, very niche things
mhm.
that, you leverage all these kinds of different custom fields and reporting, you know,
Yeah.
opportunities. Yeah.
And just to be clear for the audience too, and that's not, I don't believe, at added cost because you have a simple pricing model. So these additional features you may choose to turn on or add or create, it's all part of the same package.
Exactly. It's already offered out of the box. And so that's why it's easy to scope that phase one of go live, right?
Mm.
Because you can say, well, we want to bring our QMS into Cetec, but not initially because we just have to solve our inventory problems at day
Mhm.
one. But we can start to learn how to do in process or receiving inspections, and we can start to use the nonconformances and corrective actions. But
Mhm.
there's no new cost to that, and you kind of you just build, you learn how to use the tool that's already there, and you build those
Mhm.
things and customize it. And so all of those things are already, you bring on a new customer, new contract, you have new things that you have to, you have new stipulations that you have to adjust to. So you build those into the system without any additional cost. It's mostly
Yeah.
training or tweaking a data table.
Yeah. So with all the challenges and changes within EMS over the last few years, what are kind of some features that you've had to develop in the newer versions to kind of to benefit your customer base?
That's a great question. Um, we've the way that we handle, I'd say consignment has been a big one. Customer supplied inventory, allocating inventory to specific customers or even specific jobs. So there was a feature that we did called pre-allocation, that as early as placing a PO, you could dedicate that purchase order line to a customer or to an order number. And so
Mhm.
then when the MRP runs, normally it's looking at inventory across multiple jobs. It's just trying to give you the most lean, efficient way of managing and buying inventory. Well, pre-allocation allows you to promise and dedicate specific inventory to a customer without, spreading it out. So that was a big development. The other one has been integrating. Uh, Different integration partners like CalcuQuote has been excellent.
Mhm.
So we have a unique way of handling alternate parts or substitute parts, where we create an object tied to that BOM, and so we can pass that data uh, from all of your work order demand and supply signals. We can pass that up to CalcuQuote, and you can decide, okay, I want to buy these three manufacturing part numbers across these three different jobs because it's way more efficient, or maybe I don't have to buy this because I already have this alternate part on hand in an inventory and available. And so it
Yeah.
allows you to make decisions earlier in the purchasing process so that you're not on the work, on the shop floor trying to figure out, why don't I have this component to continue production, right? So things like that are trying to give your team more tools to be proactive.
Mhm.
And then I think part of the idea of, even with some of the AI LLM, conversation is, well, giving you I think the term is data lake, a place where data is contextualized and you can actually leverage it to start to uh, train an LLM tool on a very focused data set. And so that helps when you have all these different pieces of your system connected together. It's a little bit easier to uh, train new tools, or even integrate to just like a machine, or an inventory storage system, right?
Excellent, excellent. Now, I'd be remiss if I let you go without talking about your upcoming user conference. Love the title. Like you said, you guys like a nice pun. So, ER is coming in October. I'm assuming that'll be in Austin. Uh,
Yes.
Tell us
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, so ER it's our user conference, and not just for users, it's partners and potential customers, people considering CTech. They want a behind the scenes look. So it's 2 days full of training, consulting. We have like dedicate consultants sit with customers for an hour, and we talk through a specific portion of the system and what are customers struggling with and how do we help them kind of unlock things. You get to hear how other customers are approaching what certain pain points in the system. And we kind of lay out the roadmap and give you some behind the scenes on here's what happens when you submit a support ticket, right? So there's kind of this community feel built around it. And then you get to interact and see the Cetec team. So it means, in some cases you get to request those features you really want, and your team gets a couple of days of training. Plus we do a barbecue dinner. So that's hard to argue against.
Yeah.
Can't be upset about a happy hour and some barbecue.
It has to be barbecue. You're in Austin, right? That's
Absolutely.
that.
Yep. Barbecue and then breakfast tacos in the morning for breakfast. So kind of two of the Austin staples.
There it is. And people, so that it's obviously that's quite a few months out. So people who are going to be interested in that, I'm sure there'll be some promotion on that. But if you're hearing this and want to get involved, you just reach out directly to Scott here, and he'll get you signed up.
Yep. We've done the now. We have a ticket lead registration is open, ready to go. So
good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Scott, I appreciate learning more about this. This was excellent. Hopefully we can do this again in the future. And I hope ER Palooza is a resounding success for you and for Cetec ERP.
Yeah, Eric, thank you again. As always, really appreciate talking to you. So yeah, we'll see you soon.
Okay, take care.